In the deep void of space, far beyond the reach of ordinary stars, whispers traveled between civilizations. They were not whispers of trade or peace, but whispers of fear. The word that moved from planet to planet, from council to council, was a single name: humans. The name carried weight. It was spoken with trembling voices. It was written in secret reports that never reached the public. To some, humans were a myth, a ghost story told to keep young alien children quiet at night. To others, they were a shadow of history, a power that once roared across the stars and then vanished. In the grand halls of the Galactic Council, the air was heavy. Representatives from dozens of species gathered, their voices sharp, their eyes full of worry. One long-necked ambassador hissed, "If the humans return, we will not survive." Another struck the table with its claws. "We must prepare, we must not wait." Yet in the back of the chamber, a frail elder whispered, "What if the humans are already here?" For centuries, the galaxy had feared them. Stories told of human fleets that burned enemy worlds to ash. Stories told of human soldiers who never surrendered, who fought even when their bodies were broken. The humans were called dangerous, unpredictable, always building machines of war, always reaching for more, but no one had seen them in generations. They had disappeared from maps, their colonies silent, their signals gone. Some believed they had destroyed themselves in their endless wars. Some hoped they were lost forever, yet the fear remained, because legends do not die so easily. In the dark markets of forgotten moons, smugglers spoke of wreckage found drifting near black holes, strange ships with human markings in military academies. Cadets were taught battle plans against possible human invasions. In the quiet of homes, parents told their young, "If you see a human ship, you run." Still, no proof remained until one day the silence broke. A listening station on the edge of the core picked up a faint signal. The operators leaned closer, adjusting their instruments. At first they thought it was just static, but the pattern was too sharp, too steady, too deliberate. The words were ancient, spoken in the language of the humans. The translators struggled to break it down. Finally, the message came clear. "This is Captain Elias of the Starship Horizon. To any who hear us, we are not your enemy. We need help. We are dying." The council chambers shook with panic. The whisper became a scream. Some demanded the signal be blocked. Others wanted fleets to attack immediately. Yet a small group listened to the recording again and again, searching for meaning in the broken, tired human voice. In the far corners of the galaxy, warships began to stir. Engines roared to life. Fleets gathered in hidden docks. The name humans spread like fire through the stars. Soldiers sharpened their blades. Pilots readied their fighters. They all waited for the moment when human warships would appear at their gates, but the truth was stranger. The signal was not a call of war, it was a cry for survival. The humans, once feared above all, were not returning with strength. They were returning with weakness, and yet no one knew this. No one was ready to believe that the monsters of their nightmares could ever beg for mercy. Among the stars, stories grew darker. Some said the humans would trick the galaxy, pretending to be weak only to strike later. Others said they carried plagues, ready to unleash sickness on entire worlds. Every rumor added fuel to the fire, and every leader asked the same question: should we prepare to destroy them before they destroy us? One alien child, sitting by a window on her small home world, looked up at the night sky. Her parents whispered about humans with fear, but she only wondered, what if they are like us? What if they are lost? What if they are lonely? Her words were lost in the wind, unheard by the great fleets that armed themselves. The galaxy held its breath. Old stories and new fear twisted together. No one knew the truth. They only knew the name humans, the monsters from the past, the ghosts of forgotten wars, the threat that could not be measured. Then across the empty stars a shape appeared, dark and broken. Limping between the systems, it was not a fleet, not an army, but a single ship, metal torn, engines failing, lights flickering on its hull though scarred by fire. One word could still be read in the ancient human script: Horizon. The whispers turned to silence. Every eye in the galaxy turned to that single broken ship. Was this the beginning of invasion, or was this something else? Something no one had ever expected. The fear of humans had returned, but now it carried with it a mystery, and in the darkness of space, the Horizon sent its message again, weak but clear. Please, help us. The chamber of the Galactic Council was built from crystal walls and shining floors. It stood like a beacon at the heart of the galaxy. where voices of many species came together. But on this day, the light of the hall felt heavy. The word humans had returned, and it poisoned every thought. Dozens of representatives sat around the great circular table. Their bodies and forms were different, some with scales, some with feathers, some with shimmering shells. Yet all of them shared one expression: fear. The signal from the human ship still echoed in their minds, a weak voice saying, "Help us. We are dying." An insectoid ambassador clicked its mandibles in anger. "It is a trap," it hissed. "Do not be fooled by their weakness. The humans always trick. They always strike after the pity." Its black eyes glared at the others, daring anyone to disagree. A tall aquatic delegate swayed slowly, fins glowing in the dim light. "No, we cannot be certain. What if the message is true? What if they really suffer? Do we let children die because of fear?" Its voice trembled, but its words carried into the silence. The hall broke into noise. Some shouted that humans should be destroyed before they spread again. Others argued that destroying a ship begging for help would stain the honor of the council forever. Voices clashed. Tails struck the ground. Wings flared in anger. At the center sat the high speaker, an old being whose eyes burned with wisdom. He raised his hand and the chamber fell quiet. "We must decide," he said slowly. "For centuries. We feared the humans for centuries. We prepared for their return. And now, when they come to us, our first question is whether to kill or to save." Whispers stirred around the table. The high speaker leaned forward. "We cannot ignore them. A single ship sits at our border, damaged, desperate. If we act with fear, we destroy them. If we act with mercy, we may save them, but in both choices, the galaxy will remember." A reptilian general slammed his clawed fist. "Remember this," he roared. "The humans burned 10 worlds in the old wars. I have read the records, I have studied their battles. They are dangerous beyond measure. If one ship survives today, tomorrow a fleet will follow. They must be destroyed." But then a younger delegate, small and with pale fur, stood up. Her voice shook, yet she forced herself to speak. "And if they are not here to invade, if they are truly lost and broken, then we would be monsters for killing them. Is fear enough reason to murder the helpless?" The council chamber grew quiet again. Each leader looked into themselves, torn between memory and truth. The stories of human destruction weighed against the soft cry for help. It was a battle of the heart. Beyond the walls of the chamber, fleets prepared. Warships moved into position at the border. Their captains waited for the council's command. Should they fire on the human vessel, or open their gates and allow it to dock? Meanwhile, in hidden corners of the galaxy, citizens had already heard the rumor. Fear ran through the markets, through the cities. Some whispered that the council would fall if they welcomed the humans. Others whispered that maybe, just maybe, the humans could be allies. The high speaker turned his gaze on the council once more. "There is one thing we must remember," he said, his voice like a low thunder. "Legends can blind us. We fear shadows of the past. But shadows are not the same as the living. If the humans before us are truly dying, then what does it mean for us to strike them down?" The insectoid ambassador hissed again. "It means survival, nothing else matters." But the younger delegate whispered, almost too softly to be heard, "Sometimes survival is not living. Sometimes it is only fear." Her words struck the hall because they were true. Every species there had lived in fear of humans for so long that fear itself had become a cage. Then came the final report from the border. A messenger drone entered, its mechanical voice ringing across the chamber. "The human vessel Horizon remains in orbit. Its engines fail. Its crew does not attack. Its signal repeats, requesting aid." The high speaker's eyes narrowed. He rose from his seat. "The decision is before us," he declared. "Do we open our hands or do we close them into fists?" The room waited. Breathless, hearts pounded in alien chests. Every leader felt the weight of history pressing down on their shoulders. One choice could change the galaxy forever. And just as the speaker prepared to call the vote, a new sound broke through the chamber. It was the voice of the human again, but weaker, fading. "Please, someone help us." The counselors froze. No one moved. Their fear and their hope twisted together. For the first time in ages, the galaxy stood on the edge of a choice that could not be undone. Outside the great windows of the chamber, stars shone cold and distant. Among them drifted a broken human ship, its lights flickering like a dying flame. The galaxy watched and waited. The human ship drifted like a wounded beast across the stars. Its engines coughed out broken sparks. Its hull was scarred with black burns, panels hung loose, floating into space like dead leaves on the wind. It looked less like a war machine and more like a ghost. Alien fleets surrounded it in silence. Thousands of ships formed a circle of firepower. Cannons ready? Every commander waited for the order. One command and the horizon would be turned into dust. Inside the human vessel, dim lights flickered. The air was thin, filled with smoke. Wires hung from the ceiling, sparks falling on broken floors. Humans lay in the corridors, some unconscious, others barely breathing. A sound of coughing echoed through the halls, a reminder that oxygen was running out. At the heart of the ship, Captain Elias sat against a wall. His face pale, his uniform torn, his eyes burned with pain, but also with something else, hope. He kept sending the same signal, his voice weak. "This is the Starship Horizon. We seek no war, we seek only help, please. Hear us?" In the control deck of the alien flagship, Commander Thalek watched the human ship through the viewing glass. His scales glimmered under the cold lights. His crew shifted nervously around him. Some hissed, some whispered, all waiting. "Commander," one officer said, "the Council has not yet voted. We are ordered to hold position. Should we prepare weapons?" Thalek did not answer at first. His eyes traced the shape of the broken ship, the scars across its body. He had studied human war records since he was a cadet. Every file told the same story. Humans fought like fire, humans destroyed without mercy. Yet what he saw before him did not match the stories. "Look closer," Thalek said at last. "Do you see their guns raised? Do you see fleets arriving?" The officer hesitated, then shook its head. "No, Commander." Inside the horizon, footsteps echoed faintly. A child's voice called out, weak and scared. "Mama, I can't breathe." A mother held her child close. Wrapping her torn coat around the small body, she whispered, hold on. Though she herself was shaking. Down another corridor, an engineer tried to fix a broken life support panel. His hands were burned, his tools broken. Sweat ran down his face, but he refused to stop. "Just a little longer," he muttered. "Just a little more air." But the machine sparked and died, and he fell to his knees, tears mixing with the smoke. The alien fleet listened as the human distress call played again. The voice grew weaker with each repetition. The signal cracked, cutting in and out. Yet still it begged for help. On the council world, leaders argued still. But the truth was reaching them. Images of the human ship, broken and bleeding in the void. Those images spread through the galaxy, and people began to question their fears. Could this really be the nightmare species of legend? But on the alien flagship, the choice came down to one commander. Thalek's clawed hand hovered over the control panel. One order would fire the cannons, end the ship, end the question. The galaxy would be safe, the stories would remain true. Humans would be nothing but ghosts again. Yet another order could change everything. His crew stared at him, waiting, hearts pounding. Thalek closed his eyes. He remembered a story his elder once told him. Do not judge a species only by their battles. Judge them by their cries when they are weak, for even monsters can beg for mercy. And sometimes monsters are only stories. When Thalek opened his eyes, he gave the command no one expected. "Prepare a boarding party," he said. His officers gasped. "Commander, if they are dangerous." "If they are dangerous, we will know," Thalek interrupted. "But if they are not, then we will also know. Enough of fear. It is time for truth." The boarding ships left the alien fleet, gliding toward the broken horizon. Their lights cut across the dark, casting long shadows on the human hull. For the first time in generations, aliens and humans would stand face to face inside the horizon. The humans gathered in the dim corridors, some too weak to walk, others clutching makeshift weapons of pipes and metal rods. They feared the aliens as much as the aliens feared them. One soldier whispered, "If they kill us, at least we tried." The child clung to his mother's arm, whispering, "Are they coming to save us?" The mother's eyes filled with tears. She did not answer. Metal rang as the alien boarding doors cut into the hull. A hiss of steam filled the corridor. Shadows appeared in the smoke, tall and strange. The first alien stepped inside, armored, its glowing eyes scanning the broken ship. The humans held their breath. Weapons lowered, children crying softly. For one long moment, there was only silence between them, the past and the present hanging in the air like a blade. Then, the human captain, Barely standing, raised his hand. His voice was hoarse. "We are not your enemy," he said. "We need help." He fell to his knees, coughing, the words almost lost in the smoke. The alien commander stepped forward. His soldiers tightened their grips, ready for violence. But Thalek only looked down at the weak human before him. And in that moment something shifted. The monsters of the past stood broken before him, not as conquerors, but as survivors, not as threats, but as beings desperate to live, and the galaxy, watching through silent transmissions, waited for the next choice. Would mercy live, or would fear rule once more? The alien soldiers stepped carefully into the human ship. Their armor gleamed under the broken lights, and their weapons hummed with quiet power. Smoke curled around their feet, the air thick with the smell of burning wires. They expected ambush, they expected hidden guns, they expected the monsters from their stories. But what they saw were shadows of suffering. Humans lay across the floor, weak and gasping. Some coughed blood, others reached toward the soldiers with trembling hands. Children clung to their mothers, their small faces pale from lack of air. There was no battle here, no roar of warriors, only the quiet sound of beings trying not to die. Commander Thalek stood at the front of his squad. His clawed hand rested on the grip of his weapon. His eyes swept across the scene. This was not the enemy of the legends. This was not an army waiting to strike. These were survivors. "Commander," hissed one of his officers. It could still be a trick. The soldier's finger tightened on his weapon. They could be acting. Thalek's eyes narrowed. He had thought the same, but then he noticed the child, a boy no older than 7 cycles, struggling to breathe in the thin air. His small hand reached out, not in anger, but in desperate trust. He touched the leg of an alien soldier, whispering in a cracked voice, "Don't let us die." The alien froze, his weapon lowered against his will. The touch of the child cut deeper than any blade. In that moment, all the old stories seemed weaker, smaller. Thalek gave his order, his voice firm. "Lower weapons." His soldiers hesitated, but his command was final. "Help them," he said. "They are not warriors today, they are dying." The squad moved quickly, breaking open oxygen tanks they had carried. A hiss of fresh air filled the corridor. Humans gasped, their lungs drinking deeply. The mother pulled her child close, tears streaming down her face. She looked up at the alien commander, her voice breaking. "Thank you." For the first time in countless years, a human thanked an alien and meant it. The alien medics rushed to the wounded. Their scanners beeped, their hands steady. They injected fluids, patched burns, lifted bodies carefully from the smoke. At first, the humans flinched, expecting cruelty, expecting blades. But when the pain eased, when breath returned, they realized these beings had come not to kill, but to save. In the command chamber of the alien flagship, the crew watched the rescue unfold through their monitors. Some officers were uneasy, others were speechless. One whispered, "We were told they would burn us alive. But look, they bleed like us." The news spread quickly, faster than light across the galaxy. Civilians watched as images of humans being carried onto alien ships reached every screen. The monsters of legend, so fragile, so desperate. The galaxy had never seen them like this. But not all were moved by mercy in the council chambers. Arguments burned hotter than ever. Some shouted, "Thalek has betrayed us." Others demanded, "Bring the humans in. We must know the truth." The galaxy was divided. Meanwhile, back on the horizon, Captain Elias forced himself to stand. His body shook, but he would not fall. He looked into the eyes of Commander Thalek. There was no hate there, only exhaustion. "We are not your enemies," Elias said quietly. "We are travelers who lost our way. Our ship was attacked, our families. We only wished to live." Thalek studied him for a long moment. He thought of the legends, the burned worlds, the soldiers who never surrendered. He thought of the boy's hand on his soldier's armor. He thought of the thank you spoken by the mother. Finally, he said, "The council must decide what to do with you. But until then, you are under my protection." Those words shocked both sides. The alien soldiers stiffened. The humans stared in disbelief. Protection, not execution. Not exile, not fire, but protection. The rescue continued. Human survivors were guided onto the alien transport ships. Some too weak to walk, carried on stretchers, some limped, holding hands with the very beings they once feared. The child walked beside the alien soldier he had touched, never letting go of his hand. As the boarding ships pulled away from the horizon, the human vessel looked emptier, lonelier. It was only a shell now, a broken monument of their suffering. But it had carried a message far greater than its size. From the decks of the alien flagship, the galaxy's eyes were watching. Would this act of mercy bring peace, or would it invite doom? No one knew, but the moment was alive when the boarding ships docked. Alien crews stared at the humans, their faces pale, their eyes tired, their movements slow. For a long time, no one spoke. Then a whisper spread among the crew. They look like us. In that fragile silence, alarms suddenly blared. Red lights flashed across the alien bridge. Enemy ships appeared on the edge of the system, dark and sharp. Their symbols were not human. Their weapons glowed with deadly light. The horizon had not been a trap. But bait, the real enemy, had arrived. Not human, but something else entirely. Commander Thalek's jaw tightened. He turned to his officers. "Battle stations," he ordered. "And keep the humans safe. They are under my command now." The galaxy had expected humans to be the enemy, but in this moment, they were the ones in need. And the aliens who once feared them now stood between them and death. The alarms rang across the alien fleet. Red light filled the command decks, and every crew member froze as the new threat appeared. From the darkness of space came ships unlike any they had seen before. Long and sharp, built like knives cutting through the stars. Their hulls glowed with crimson markings, their weapons burned with energy. "They are not human," whispered an officer on the alien flagship. His voice carried both relief and dread. "They are something else." Commander Thalek stood tall at the center of his bridge, his eyes fixed on the approaching armada. He knew the symbols painted on those ships. They belonged to the Vayari Dominion, a ruthless empire that cared for nothing but conquest. For years they had been quiet at the edges of the galaxy, but now they had come. The truth sank into every heart. The humans were not invaders, they were prey. The horizon had been hunted, its crew slaughtered until only survivors remained. And now the predators had followed, ready to finish what they started. Inside the alien medbay, human survivors stirred as the alarm screamed. Mothers clutched their children tighter. Soldiers tried to rise, though their bodies were weak. Captain Elias leaned against the wall, his voice low but steady. "They found us," he said. "The ones who destroyed our fleets, the ones who burned our colonies." The Vayari, the alien soldiers glanced at each other. They had feared humans for generations, but now a different fear crept into their bones. If the Vayari could break the humans, those legendary warriors, what chance did anyone else have? On the bridge, the first wave of Vayari ships opened fire. Blue energy blasts ripped through the void. Alien warships moved into formation. Shields flared. Explosions shook the fleet. Thalek gritted his teeth. "Return fire," he ordered. Cannons roared. Beams of light streaked across the stars. But the Vayari ships were fast. They weaved between attacks, striking with precision. Several alien cruisers went dark, their lights fading into the void in the medbay. The humans could feel the tremors of battle through the floor. The child gripped his mother's hand, wide-eyed. "They are going to kill us, aren't they?" he whispered. The mother shook her head quickly. "No, not this time. Not here." Though fear filled her, she clung to the hope that maybe the aliens who had shown mercy would also fight for them. Elias forced himself to stand. His breath came hard, but he would not stay down. He demanded to see Thalek, and against the advice of the alien medics, he was taken to the command deck. When he arrived, every eye turned toward him. Some looked with suspicion, others with pity. Thalek met his gaze. "So it was true," he said. "You were running from them." Elias nodded. "They came without warning. They tore through our defenses. We fought until there was nothing left. We sent ships in every direction. Searching for refuge, most of them never made it. We were just the unlucky ones they followed." His voice cracked, but he steadied it. "And if you fall now, they will not stop. They will come for you too." The words struck like a blade. The council had feared humans, but the true terror was already at their gates. One alien officer whispered in horror, "If humans could not stand against them, then how can we?" Elias turned to him, his eyes fierce despite his weakness. "Because you have something we lost. You still have allies, you still have trust. We tried to fight them alone and we fell, but together maybe you can stand." For a moment, the bridge was silent. The sounds of battle echoed through the ship, explosions flashing across the viewing glass. But in that silence, the old fear of humans began to fade. A new fear rose, one that united them all. Thalek drew a deep breath. He looked at Elias, then at his crew. "Then we fight," he said. "Not as prey, not as scattered worlds, but as one." His voice rose. "Signal the fleet. Protect the humans. Hold the line." Alien warships shifted into tighter formation. Shields overlapped, cannons roared with new strength. For every ship the Ve'ari destroyed, 2 more fought back. And for the first time in generations, humans and aliens stood side by side, on the medbay floor. The human child pressed his face against the window. Watching the flashes of battle outside, his small voice whispered, "They are fighting for us." The mother held him close, whispering back, "Yes, and maybe we can fight for them too." The Ve'ari fleet pressed harder. Unleashing larger weapons, the alien flagship shook violently, sparks raining down from the ceiling. Thalek gripped the railing, his voice steady. "We will not let them pass." Elias stepped forward. Weak but determined. "Your tactics are too rigid," he said, pointing at the enemy formations on the screen. "The Ve'ari are hunters. They strike at your weaknesses. But humans learn to fight them differently. Let me show you." Thalek studied him, then nodded. "Then show me, Captain." And so in the middle of chaos, the feared human stood beside the alien commander, giving orders, guiding fleets, turning panic into strategy. His voice carried strength even as his body trembled. He showed them how to bait the hunters, how to strike at their blind spots, how to sacrifice 1 ship to save 10. The aliens followed his commands, and slowly the tide began to shift. The Ve'ari ships faltered, surprised by resistance that had once broken humans but now burned stronger through alliance. The battle was not won, but for the first time it was not lost either, and as the galaxy watched from afar, they realized the truth. The humans were not the greatest threat. They were the spark, the ones who had suffered first, the ones who had shown weakness but also wisdom, and in that moment, every world knew this war was no longer about humans alone. It was about survival for all. The edge of the star system burned with light. Alien warships clashed with the Ve'ari fleet. The void itself seemed alive with fire. Missiles streaked like falling stars. Beams of energy tore across the black sky, and the wreckage of ships drifted like broken bones. From the command deck of the alien flagship, Commander Thalek stood beside Captain Elias. The alien crew stole glances at the human, still weak, still pale, yet giving orders with a calm voice. Each command cut through fear, guiding ships into maneuvers they had never practiced, but which turned chaos into rhythm. "Split the formation here," Elias said, pointing at the glowing map. "They want you in a wall. Predictable. Break it, scatter, make them chase, then strike their flanks." His words carried a sharp certainty. It was the certainty of someone who had already fought and bled against the Ve'ari. Thalek gave the order, and alien ships moved like shards of glass across the stars. The Ve'ari followed, hungry for blood. But when they chased too far, hidden cruisers emerged from the dark and blasted their sides. Explosions lit the void. Alien crews roared with triumph. For the first time, the Ve'ari faltered. Their hunter's instinct had been turned against them, but the victory was not without cost. An alien destroyer screamed through the comms as it was torn apart by enemy fire. The ship cracked open, flames spilling into space. The sound of its crew's final cries echoed before the signal went silent. Every victory tasted of ash in the medbay. Human survivors held onto the walls as the ship shook. The mother shielded her child, whispering comfort. Though her voice shook with every tremor, the boy pressed his ear to the floor, listening to the distant thunder of war. His small eyes shone with something new, not only fear, but wonder. "They are fighting together," he whispered. "Humans and aliens." On the battlefield, the Ve'ari deployed heavier ships, their flagships emerging like dark mountains. Weapons glowed, charging for devastating blasts. "One strike could erase an entire fleet," Elias, Thalek growled. "What do we do against that?" The human captain studied the screens, his jaw tightened. "We don't meet them head-on, that's suicide. You must use the oldest trick, make them aim at one thing, while you strike another." He coughed, blood in his throat, but he didn't stop. "Send a small fleet straight at them, a distraction meanwhile. Circle the rest behind, hit their engines, not their cannons." Thalek's officers looked at each other in disbelief. "That is madness," one said. "Those ships will die." Elias's eyes burned. "Yes, some will die, but if you do nothing, all will die." The alien commander hesitated only a second, then he raised his hand. Do it. A squadron of ships darted forward, brave and desperate. Their engines blazed as they charged directly at the massive Vayari flagship. The enemy laughed through their comms, unleashing torrents of fire. The smaller ships were ripped apart one by one. Their crews sacrificed, but in their deaths they bought time. From the shadows of the nebula, the rest of the fleet swept around like a tide. Alien cannons opened fire on the engines of the giant vessel. Explosions tore through the rear. The flagship shuddered, its glow flickering. Its great cannons died before they could fire again. Cheers erupted across the alien fleet. For the first time, the Vayari flagship was crippled. The hunters were wounded, but the price was heavy. The galaxy had seen courage, yet also loss. Families would mourn. Names would be carved into memory. On the alien bridge, Thalik turned to Elias. His voice was low, almost respectful. You saved us, Elias shook his head. No, those who died saved us. We only showed them where to fall. His eyes darkened. This is what war against the Vayari means. No victory comes without sacrifice. Far away, the Galactic Council watched in silence. Every world saw the truth unfold before them. The humans were not destroyers now. They were survivors, teachers of war. They had once been feared for their strength, but now they were needed for their knowledge. Still, the battle was far from over. More Vayari ships poured into the system. Black clouds of death spreading wider. The alien fleet strained, shields failing, weapons overheating. Thalik gritted his teeth. We cannot hold forever. Elias coughed again. His body failing, but his mind alive with fire. You must hold long enough, he whispered. Long enough to show them that you will not break. That is how humans fought. Not because we were stronger, but because we refused to die quietly, as if to answer him. The child's voice came through the comms. Patched from the med bay by mistake, his words were small, trembling, but every soldier in the fleet heard them. Please don't let us die. Silence followed, a silence that turned into steel. The alien crews straightened, hands gripping their controls. Fear burned away, replaced with determination. They would not let the child's plea go unanswered. The battle raged, ships colliding, engines screaming. The edge of the stars became a graveyard. Yet still the fleet stood, humans guiding, aliens fighting, the impossible alliance holding the line against the hunters. And then, across the field, the Vayari unleashed their deadliest weapon, a sphere of burning energy, vast as a moon, forming at the center of their fleet. Its light pulsed, strong enough to shatter worlds. On the alien bridge, officers gasped. It's a planet killer, one cried. If they fire, everything in this system dies. Thalik's eyes locked with Elias's for the first time. The fear was not of humans nor of legends, but of the end of everything. The human captain drew a shuddering breath, his voice steady despite the blood on his lips. Then this will be our last stand. The Vayari weapon grew larger in the darkness, a burning sphere of energy, pulsing brighter with each second. Its glow spilled across the battlefield, drowning ships in its deadly light. Every alien captain knew what it was, a planet killer. A weapon meant not to win battles but to erase whole worlds. On the alien flagship, silence fell. The crews stared at the screen, hearts heavy. Even the bravest soldiers felt the weight of doom. When it fires, one officer whispered, there will be nothing left. Commander Thalik gripped the railing. His claws dug deep into the metal. His eyes burned with fury. We cannot run, he said. If we run, the galaxy will fall. If we fight, we may fall. But we fight anyway. Captain Elias stood beside him. Pale and trembling, his breath was ragged, but his eyes blazed with something stronger than pain. You are right, he said. But to stop that weapon, someone must get close. Closer than any ship has dared, it is the only way. The alien officers turned to him in shock. Closer, one repeated. That is suicide. Elias did not flinch. His voice was quiet. Yes, for a moment. The weight of his words hung heavy. No one spoke. Not even Thalik. The humans had already suffered, already lost their worlds. And yet Elias spoke of sacrifice as if it were a duty, not a curse. At that moment, the human child's voice broke over the comm again. Soft and frightened. Are we going to die? The words pierced through every soldier, every crew member, cutting deeper than any weapon could. Elias closed his eyes. He thought of the child. Of all the children his people had lost, he thought of the burned colonies, of the silence where human voices once filled the stars. He thought of what it meant to be human, He thought of what it meant to stand when all else fell. He straightened, pain clear in his face, but his voice firm. "No, child, not today. Not if we can help it," he turned to Thalek. "Let me take a ship, one strong enough to reach that weapon. I will strike it from within. I will end it." Thalek's eyes widened. "You would throw away your life." Elias shook his head. "Not throw it away, use it. If one life can save thousands, then it is not wasted. This is what we learned in the fire of war. Sometimes survival demands sacrifice." The alien commander's throat tightened. He wanted to argue. He wanted to order Elias to stay. But he saw the fire in the humans' eyes, and he knew the truth. The humans had been feared because they never surrendered. Now, in this moment, that same spirit burned not as a threat but as hope. Thalek placed his clawed hand on Elias's shoulder. "Then you will not die alone." Elias shook his head quickly. "No, you must stay. You are the one who can unite your people after this battle. Without you, this alliance will crumble. Without me, it may still stand." The words were final. Thalek lowered his head in respect. Moments later, the hangar doors opened. A single alien cruiser was prepared. Its engines roared as Elias boarded. His steps were slow, his body broken, but his spirit unyielding. The humans who remained alive watched from the med bay. Some cried, some prayed. The child pressed his small hand against the window. Whispering, "Come back," the cruiser launched. Streaking across the battlefield, weaving through enemy fire, alien fleets gave cover, throwing themselves into the path of Vayari guns. Buying every second of time, explosions tore the void, but the small ship pushed forward, closer, ever closer. On the bridge, Thalek watched, his chest heavy. His officers waited in silence, every eye fixed on the single dot of light on the screen. The Vayari weapon pulsed again, its glow brighter than a sun. It was moments away from unleashing its fire. Inside the cruiser, Elias sat in the pilot's seat. His hands gripped the controls, his face pale but steady. He opened a channel to the fleet. His voice filled every ship, every ear. "I am Captain Elias of humanity. We were once called monsters. We were once called threats, but today we are something else. Today, we are your shield." The alien crews listened in silence, tears burning in eyes that had never cried in war before. Elias's ship pierced through the outer shields of the weapon. Alarms screaming as fire ripped across the hull. He pushed forward deeper into the burning core. The energy swelled around him, blinding light filling every window. For one heartbeat, time seemed to stop. Then came his final words, his voice calm and strong. "Take care of the child, take care of them all. Live." The cruiser vanished in a blast of fire. A chain reaction ripped through the weapon's core. The sphere of energy collapsed, imploding into itself. The light was swallowed in silence, and then the weapon was gone, shattered into 1,000 burning pieces. The battlefield froze. Alien fleets stared in disbelief. The planet killer was destroyed. The Vayari armada reeled. Their hunters now prey on the alien flagship. Silence filled the bridge. Then slowly one voice whispered, "He did it." Another voice followed, "The human saved us." And then the silence broke into cheers. Roars of triumph, cries of grief. The name once spoken in fear now carried with it something else. In the medbay, the child pressed his face against the glass, eyes wide. "He saved us," he whispered. The mother held him close, crying softly, "Yes, my love. He saved us all." Thalek closed his eyes, his chest heavy with both sorrow and pride. He whispered to himself, "You are not monsters. You were the fire we needed." Across the galaxy, the transmission spread, the story of the human sacrifice, the story of the weapon destroyed, the story of hope rising where fear once lived. But as the fleets began to recover, the war was not over. The Vayari still lived, still hunted, yet now the galaxy had something new. Not just fear, not just legends, they had a reason to fight. And in the silence after the explosion, every star seemed to whisper the same truth. The humans were not a curse, they were a gift. The battlefield was quiet now. The light of the destroyed weapon still shimmered in the void like the dying glow of a broken star. Wreckage drifted everywhere, broken pieces of ships spinning slowly. Some burned, some froze, and some carried no sound at all. Only silence. The alien fleets held position. Their crews stared into the darkness where Captain Elias's ship had vanished. For a long moment, none spoke. Not even Commander Thalek. All they felt was the weight of what they had witnessed. A human had given his life not for conquest, not for destruction, but for them, in the medbay. The human survivors sat in stunned silence. The child pressed his face against his mother's chest, whispering again and again, "He saved us. He saved us." The mother's tears fell into the boy's hair. Her voice broke as she whispered, "Yes, he saved us all, on the alien flagship." Thalek finally raised his head. His voice was heavy yet strong. "Send word to every world, send word to the council. The human captain destroyed the weapon. He gave his life for us." His officers bowed their heads, some in sorrow, some in awe. The message traveled across the galaxy. Faster than light, it spread from system to system, from great cities to hidden moons, from grand academies to humble homes. The legend of humans shifted. No longer whispers of monsters, but whispers of sacrifice. The name human now carried the weight of hope. In the grand halls of the council, the chamber was filled again. The same leaders who once argued in fear now sat in silence, listening to the reports. The insectoid ambassador who had hissed for destruction lowered its eyes. The aquatic delegate who spoke of mercy let tears fall into the water around its fins. The young furred delegate whispered, "He gave what we could not." The high speaker rose. His voice filled the chamber. "For centuries, we called humans a threat. For centuries, we feared their return. But today, we have seen the truth. They were not our curse, they were our answer. They were what we needed." His eyes scanned the chamber. "From this day forward, we shall not fear the name of humans. We shall honor it." The vote was taken, and for the first time in history it was unanimous. Humanity would no longer be outlawed. Humanity would be welcomed into the Alliance, not as conquerors, not as invaders, but as brothers. Back on the alien flagship, Thalek walked through the medbay. Human eyes followed him, wary still, but softer now. He stopped at the child's side. The boy looked up at him, his small face pale, but his eyes strong. Thalek knelt, lowering himself until their eyes met. "Your captain was brave," he said gently. "His fire will not be forgotten." The child nodded, his voice small but steady. "He told me, we just wanted peace." Thalek's chest tightened. He placed his clawed hand gently on the boy's shoulder. "Then we will give you peace." Around them, alien medics and human survivors shared quiet glances. The barriers of fear that had lasted for centuries cracked. Slowly, trust began to grow, fragile but real. Far across the galaxy, ordinary people spoke of what had happened. A miner whispered to his children, "Once we feared the humans, but now, a human saved us," a merchant told her customers. "They gave their lives when they did not have to." A soldier, sharpening his blade, murmured, "If they can fight for us, then I will fight for them." The legend of fear was dying, a new legend was being born. But the war was not over. The Vayari still hunted, still built weapons in the dark, yet now, the galaxy had something it never had before. Unity for the first time. The worlds were not divided by fear. They were united by hope. Commander Thalek stood on the deck of his ship. Looking out at the stars, his fleets were battered, his people wounded. But in his heart he carried the voice of Captain Elias. Strong even in his final breath, "Live." He turned to his crew, his voice firm. "The Vayari will come again, and when they do, we will stand with the humans, we will stand together. This battle is not the end. It is the beginning." And so it was across the galaxy. Preparations began, not out of fear but out of resolve. Humans were no longer the shadow in the dark. They were the spark that lit the fire. On a quiet world far from the council's halls, the human child walked with his mother under the stars. He looked up at the night sky wide-eyed. His small voice whispered, "Do you think Captain Elias can see us now?" His mother smiled softly, though her eyes glistened. "Yes, my love, he is among the stars, watching, guiding always." The boy reached up, pointing at the brightest star above. "Then I will be like him one day," he said. His voice carried a new kind of strength. "I will fight, I will save, I will protect," and somewhere, in the silence between stars, it felt as if the galaxy itself answered. The humans had once been feared, then they were pitied, and now at last they were honored. When the galaxy needed them most, the humans answered.